This episode is brought to you by Naked Fig Soap. Shop over a dozen handcrafted artisan soaps locally sourced and made in Arizona using the finest non-toxic intentional ingredients. Naked Fig Soap also offers facial care products along with accessories like soap dishes, soap saver bags, and more.
Visit their website at nakedfigsoap.com and use code DRUMMINGUP, all one word, for 20% off online orders. And that is the best place to find her now.
Yes.
She doesn't really have a storefront so much as she has
As of right now.
Yeah, as of right now,
Yes.
she has her products in certain locations,
Yes.
which again is the best place to find her is at her nakedfigsoap.com website.
Yes.
Or her socials. Instagram is a great spot to find her. Ask her any questions where she's going to be at like a farmer's market.
Yes.
You can find all that out. Or
But coming up, she's
Yeah.
moving to bigger and better opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. And we're very happy to hear that because,
Yes.
we just want to
She's
make
one
sure
of our
she's doing
favorite,
okay.
favorite companies.
Oh, yeah. Whenever we're getting low, we always place our order.
Yes.
And again, use that code drumming up,
Yes.
all one word, to get that 20% off discount.
For sure.
nakedfigsoap.com. It'll be in the show notes. We'll have her website. And then the best thing to do is from the website, go find her socials, follow her. That helps her. And by you doing that, it helps us because we know you're listening and we know you're buying her great products. She also offers tattoo care and everything too.
Yes,
so
she does.
just a ton of stuff that she does. It's all locally made and everything. So what was that website again?
That is nakedfigsoap.com.
Using code drumming
Drumming
up,
Up.
all one word, for 20% off at checkout.
Hi there, this is Julian of Gorad, and you are listening to Drumming Up Conversation. Hell yeah.
Drumming up conversation. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Conversation. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Conversation. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Conversation. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Drumming up, yeah. Conversation. Yeah.
All right.
All right, so I think we're ready to go then. All right, so today on our podcast, we have a very special guest. We have Gerry from the podcast Something for Nothing, a RUSH Fancast. He does that with his partner, Steve.
Yep.
Thank you so much for doing this. We do greatly appreciate you joining us to do this. So thank
It's
you.
my pleasure.
So we're doing a Neil Peart tribute and about his death and everything, how it impacted us, someone we didn't even know how much it
Right.
affected us. So how it happened with me, my brother on January 10th of 2020 just sent me a text saying, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Neil just died." I'm like, "No, he didn't.
Right.
There's no way. There's absolutely no way." And sure enough, I looked it up at a couple sources, Eddie Trunk
Eddie
mostly.
Trunk, yeah,
He's
for
where I
sure.
always go for that stuff. I know he's been on your podcast.
Yep.
He's always the official guy because he's the guy that I always go to find out, because I could not believe that something like that happened.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, it's certainly in character for Neil,
For how
right?
private he was. Yeah.
For how private he was.
Yeah.
But to not hear anything at
For
all
3 years.
leading up to it.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, for
3 years.
years.
That's I would maybe a couple months I get, but years is incredible.
For years.
To keep that
Yeah.
so private. So
Yeah. And it's the same thing with me. Steve texted me and said,
Oh,
Neil
okay.
Peart just died. And I said,
Jeez.
what? I mean,
Yeah,
it's just like totally out of the blue. And not only that, he had died a few days before it was even announced.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, there was 3 days prior that they were able to even keep
So
it.
they were able to get everything in order on their
Yeah.
end. And
It's
Yeah.
insane. Absolutely.
It is, yeah. The level of trust that they have within their organization and within their friends.
Yeah, because I found out like Mike Portnoy knew. A bunch of
Yeah.
people that were really close knew that he had cancer and everything. And the fact that in this day and age, no one spilled the beans is incredible. It just shows how much respect they had for him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They all knew how private he was. And
Yeah.
really, this is be one of the most private things you could possibly go through.
Yeah.
So everyone just,
I mean, with how much wildfire there is with just something being said anywhere
Yeah, for
to
sure.
have
Yeah.
that so
Just
private.
Not
social media.
not a hint. And
Not a
that's why
hint. Not a hint.
and that's why it was so shocking. I mean, it would have been shocking anyway,
Yeah.
but to get, news on it was a Friday, right? When
Yeah,
it
it was
came
a
out.
Friday. Yep. Yeah.
Right. I found out at, like 4:30 in the afternoon on
Mine,
Friday.
yeah, mine was about 1:30 or 2, so that would make
The
a lot of
time difference,
sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just shocking. I mean, the first
Yeah.
thing I did when I was at work when Steve texted me, and the first thing I did on the ride home was make a playlist
Oh yeah. Yep.
that I knew
That's
I was
all we
going to
did.
listen to at some point.
I think for 2 weeks straight, all we did was listen to Rush all the time. Just hear it shuffle and yep, just let it play. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I know that you said that it felt like a death in the family to you, which is how it felt to me as well. Like it for someone we've never met to have that big of an impact.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think also it was a lot of his lyrics too that he wrote to us. So
I think, yeah, I mean, Rush fans, for doing the podcast for almost 3 years now, we've learned that Rush fans are a different breed of fans
Mhm.
than a lot of other fans. We get way deep into Rush. It becomes
Definitely,
a little bit of who we are.
for sure.
There are definitely, fanatics of other fans, but certainly not as many diehards,
For sure.
I think, for other bands than there are for Rush. And there's just something about Rush that gets into your marrow and stays there, and it just
sure.
carries through the rest of your life. So it definitely feels like we know the band members, because we love the band members. We
Mhm.
look forward to everything that they've done, and especially with Neil, and especially with the later albums, it seemed like he was imparting
Yeah.
wisdom that he had accumulated over his life, and a
Yeah.
lot of it is relevant. Even from the older albums in the early 80s, a lot of it is still relevant, but some of the later stuff it just makes a lot of sense. It's almost like, directions on how you should try to live your life.
Yeah. And and that's how I found you was I looked up because I didn't know how to cope with this. And I started looking up podcasts that were doing tributes to Neil. And that's how I found your podcast. And I listened to a lot of them, but yours just struck a different chord with me. And I went back and started listening to them all. And I've been following you ever since. But the big thing with me is that you had said on that specific one that he didn't teach us what to think, but how to think.
Right.
Like, and that was just incredible because it's almost like a lot of his, like you said, his lyrics so much. I mean, the last song he ever wrote that we know of was The Garden. And there's nothing that sums up more what happened,
Yeah.
So many years later than that. It's like almost like he knew, like, well, this is the last thing I'm gonna write and I'm gonna make it count.
Right. It definitely seems that way. Like they had been planning for A Clockwork Angels to be their last
Yeah.
album.
It's just crazy that like he would have written a song like that and knew that was going to be the final song. Because I know all of us in 2012 or 2013 were like, nah, this can't be it. There's no way this maybe the last tour, sure, but not the last
Right.
album.
Right.
He knew that was it.
Yeah. And the thing about Neil's writing over the years is he just had a great way of, plucking truths out of things and just plunking them down into songs. And you're like, wow, I kind of never thought about things that way before. Or you had thought about things that way, but you couldn't put them into words
Right.
the way that he did.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So
Yeah.
he was expressing what you felt. And that's kind of why I thought, when I said that he didn't teach us what to think, but how to think, it's how to bring out what you're thinking to other people. And I think that's what he was really, really good at, because we all got a sense of the kind of person that he was throughout the years, especially with the later albums, I think.
Yeah. Vapor Trails.
Yeah.
I mean, that was all about his loss, his big loss. And
yes,
who knew that would be helping us cope with losing him?
Yeah. Vapor Trails is a hard album.
It was sort of like he wrote the soundtrack to our lives, but in the end, it was a soundtrack to his life.
Right. Especially that album.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Yeah, that was a rough I think, I don't know if we did 4 episodes on Vapor Trails.
I think
Oof.
it was because yeah, I remember I was getting emotional because like I said, I just lost my dog when I started listening to your podcast, and that was helping me tremendously. When you guys got to that episode, I'm like, oh man, this is tough. You guys
Yeah.
really broke that down, and I even remember like because I wasn't the biggest fan of that album when it came out, and I know you weren't.
Either was
strong either.
I. Either was
And then,
I.
and then once I lost my dog, and then once Neil died, I went back and I was like, this is an incredible album. Once you really sit down with the lyrics and read, and it's like this, it's like he was writing this for this moment when we lost him and when we lose anybody. Like
Yeah.
anybody that suffers a loss should listen to this album. It'll help.
Yeah, that album stands out among the great albums of all time, I
For
think.
sure.
And again, I wasn't a big fan of it when it came out. I'm not sure why. You know, there's obviously the people didn't like the mix or the production of it in the first go round. I don't know if that was it, but when I had to sit down and listen to it and really get into the lyrics, I was amazed at how someone could distill their pain into these lyrics, and how when you read them, you feel exactly what he was feeling.
Yeah.
It really is just an incredible feat for a lyricist and for a band in general, because the tone of those songs sounds a lot like the tone of the lyrics.
Yeah, very, very heavy. Like, yeah, it was incredible. The what Neil did, and then again, putting the music on top of it is the second difficult thing to do, is bringing that feeling out without words. And they just did it so beautifully on that album. So
They did.
yeah, absolutely.
I think my favorite song on that album is "The Stars Look Down,"
Okay, yeah,
because there's one. There's what was that?
that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. It is a hard song to listen to. It really is. There's I guess it's the chorus. You know, we all think of Neil as just a rationalist, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't really think about, you know, religion or systems of, I don't know, government or different philosophies as really affecting him in any way, unless he can process it rationally. You know, he isn't affected by the movement of the stars and all that kind of stuff. But when you get to this song, you know, it's, what is the meaning of this? And the stars look down. Like, you could picture him standing in the desert, like looking for answers from this terrible, awful tragedy that happened to him. And even a guy like him, a supreme rationalist, is just looking up at the sky for answers.
Yeah, I could see him on his motorcycle, like near dusk, just kind of just stopping and going, man, just looking at the sky and going, what just happened?
Right. Why?
Like, what? Why? Within 10 months of it, why? Why me? Yeah.
And the stars just look down.
Yeah.
They don't have any answers for him at
No,
all.
yeah,
It's
no.
such a heartbreaking song.
That is definitely a tough one. So getting to more lighter stuff, you've been to what, 28 shows?
25.
25. Okay. Did you have any preference on his drum solo? Did you like it in the middle of the YYZ? Did you like it on its own?
I liked it in both places when I first started seeing them on the Power Windows tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked it in YYZ, but I also liked the longer drum solo.
Okay.
That was a lot more compositional, I guess, than the one that was inside of YYZ.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would take any drum solo.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just curious because I know you got to see both. So I started seeing them at Counterparts. And so I only saw when he was doing it more of just on his own, like the rhythm method kind of thing and all that. And so I've only seen that. And I just was curious, someone that's got to see both, how, like, was it really cool being in the middle of YYZ? And it had to be fun. It had to be so much fun.
It was incredible. always, because then Getty and Alex would just appear on their sides of the stage,
Perfectly on cue, of course.
perfectly on cue, and just jump right back into the song.
And he's in perfect tempo, which is
Right.
incredible. You're doing your own solo at your own pace, but yet if you were to cut out the drum solo and just put the two parts together of them playing all three together, it would be in perfect synchrony. And I know he didn't use a metronome. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible.
Because he would end that solo with the fill.
Yeah.
And he would just hit the fill, and you knew the solo was over, and then the song started up again.
Yeah.
It was always
Amazing.
incredible.
Yeah.
I only got to see them once on the Clockwork Angels tour.
Mm.
Justin took me to see that, and yeah, that was the most amazing concert I've ever been to. The whole experience.
Well, you got to see more than just three on stage, which was really cool
Yeah,
too.
because
The
we
only
got
time
to
you
see
could do that,
the mini orchestra.
which was amazing.
That was
I mean,
amazing. And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
they really broke out some oldies for that one too, with the
Yeah.
strings. I thought that was
Well,
great.
it was cool hearing their what I think they did YYZ with the orchestra or the strings. That was really cool. And I know they did one or two others of their classic songs with them too, which is really cool because when you got the live DVD and the CD of it or whatever, you got to hear those songs differently than you've always been hearing them too, which was kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole vibe was just amazing because everyone in a 3-row in front of us, behind us, everybody shaking hands. Hi, what's your name? Where are you from? How many times have you seen them? And it was just amazing. It was like everybody was lifelong friends.
Yeah, that's a Rush show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing we've learned too, is that so many people just met at Rush shows and have been lifelong friends. It's really an astounding thing. I mean, I've been to tons of concerts. Steve and I go to tons of concerts. It doesn't really happen that much at other concerts, as far as I know.
No, same with
No.
us, but we don't go, like when we go to shows, no one just comes up and introduces themselves saying, what's your favorite album? How many times have you seen them? What instrument do you play? They don't even ask you to play an instrument. They say, what instrument do you play?
Right, they just
play an
assume.
instrument.
Exactly.
If you're going to see Rush, you must play an instrument.
You at least dabbled with it in high school at some point. So
Right.
you can do this in a Rush. Yeah. So and also what changed your mind at the Power Window show? Because I know you weren't
You weren't a big fan prior.
you weren't a big fan. So
I don't know what changed my mind. It was like falling in love at first sight. It was the most, and I've never had that experience again. I mean, I went in to the show. Well, I went to the show only because I could drive, because I was 17 or whatever. So no one else had a driver's license. So I drove to the show, and I'll go see anything. And I had heard of Rush, obviously, Tom Sawyer. Kind of hard to miss that on New York City's, rock radio stations at the time. But I can't explain the experience that I had from just the first second. I don't know. I have no idea. It's unexplainable that I went into this concert not knowing anything and came out of it needing to know everything
Right.
about this band.
yeah, it's crazy.
I just sat there the whole time in awe. And I've never had an experience like that again. I've gone to concerts where I didn't know the band and came out, and I bought the album or whatever, or bought the album even at the show, but I never went to a show and came out an insane person for a band.
And you're not like, oh, we should do a podcast of this band.
Well, I think like the next day I was just like, if I had off from work, I don't remember, but I just went out to the store and I was like, what do you got by Rush?
Yeah.
I want it all.
Yeah, I want it all. Bootleg, whatever you got.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have to know everything. And it became my life for years. Listening to Rush was like my full-time job.
Rush's variety.
Rush is-
Right. I mean, it's really unexplainable what happened, and it's something that's happened to a lot of people. And again, like we've talked to a lot of people about their first show and how incredible it was, but we don't really hear that from people about other bands. that moment, you know, when when the light turns on, when the switch is flicked, and you go from, you know, your life before you started listening to Rush to your life after you started listening to Rush.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, yeah, AD, BC, all that good stuff.
Right. It's like year
What kind
zero.
of person were you before Rush, and what kind of person were you after Rush?
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
You changed the, you know, the band on the back of your denim jacket for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you said that your favorite, some of your favorite Neil performances is La Villa Strangiato, Headlong Flight, Tom Sawyer. What makes those your favorites? Like, what is there certain parts of it, as a whole song as a whole, or?
Oh, geez. I think especially with Headlong Flight, to me, Headlong Flight is everything great about every great Rush song in one song. It just has everything that you love about Rush. The incredible drumming, there's even a little drum solo in there.
Mhm.
The incredible lyrics, Alex's, you know, guitar, where looks like his solo is like he's stumbling downhill. It fits things perfectly. It's just one of the best Rush songs, and it's amazing that's on their last album, their 19th studio album.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable run, and then to have a song like that, and even like The Garden,
Yeah.
on their last album, it's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. And a band that could also have played their 2 singles on their tour, promoting their biggest album of all time, and everyone just eats it up. You know, B2B and geez, what was the other one?
Caravan.
Thank you. Yeah. And other bands that everyone would have gone to the bathroom or gone and done other stuff. Everyone else like,
Oh yeah.
this is the 2 new songs. We got to check these out.
And I think they debuted those 2 songs on the Time Machine tour.
Time Machine, yeah, promoting
And
pictures, yeah.
I was like, okay, give us some new stuff.
Yeah. And they were bangers. I mean, they just knocked it out of the park with those 2. And then who knew that? I mean, how many bands that had a 45-year career have released maybe their best album of all time as their last album?
I know.
I mean,
It's you know, I've asked that question a couple of times, and I've gotten some emails about it. But the only email that made any sense to me was the Beatles. That Abbey Road was their last album, and it might be their best album. But you know,
a 45-year career.
Yeah, they didn't have a 45-year career, and they're the Beatles.
They're the Beatles. Yeah, Beatles, Rolling Stones don't count. Even the Rolling Stones are still doing it, and their last album wasn't their best album, for sure.
Exactly. They've been together for 50 years, but they haven't been recording albums consistently for 50 years.
No, and at that level.
At that level, no way. I mean, at that level, for me, the Stones, you know, late 70s Stones, mid to late 70s Stones is probably best Stones for me.
Yeah.
Everything after that.
And not original members either. Or, I mean, Neil's not the original member, but you know what I mean.
The same lineup.
Same lineup for that
for so long. And when it comes to Tom Sawyer, we have definitely talked to people who are sick of hearing Tom Sawyer. I'm not one of those people.
Me neither.
I love Tom Sawyer. It's such a quirky song to be such a big hit, don't you think?
I definitely think it there's nothing 4/4 about the song either.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. It's all in odd times, and it's their biggest hit. And and it's incredible that is where it is, because that middle part with Neil just going crazy, but what Geddy's doing on the bass and the keys, and then of course of all, you know, Alex's solos just never are bad. But
right, they never disappoint.
But yeah, just of all the songs they had, for that to be their biggest hit is incredible, because you think like Spirit of Radio maybe is a little more, but no, Tom Sawyer. And same with Free Will too. Free Will is incredible. I know you guys talk about that one all the time also, as far as that middle section.
The middle section is the craziest couple of minutes probably ever recorded.
Yeah, they're all doing their own solo, and it works.
I know. The thing that I've asked people when we've had a couple of drummers on, and a couple of other musicians on, talking about how Rush can do the time signature changes and you don't notice them like you do with other prog bands where you're just like, oh, okay, now we're switching into something else. But do you have any insight on that? Because I cannot figure out how that happens.
So with my band, we did it a couple times where we do some time changes where I don't think you can notice it, but as far as for what the level they do it at is incredible though. Like La Villa Strangiato makes no sense
Right.
at all. No sense at all. I think they do like 11/16. They do 9/8,
16.
7/4. Just crazy stuff. And
Right.
it works. And you listen to it and you're just like, yeah, this is awesome. I don't know why.
You don't know
Doesn't
why.
make sense. Most people can't even comprehend those time signatures,
No.
but it works. And if they didn't play it in most of the live shows, people would be disappointed by it. And it's an
Yeah.
11-minute instrumental,
Yeah.
which is the
It's-
other incredible part of it. Like,
It's like that cartoon you showed me of Neil describing doing algebra and drumming at the same time.
yeah.
Yeah.
We got that book, the Neil quote book.
Yeah.
He's talking about running a marathon
But
and
that was it, running
doing
marathon.
equations
Yeah.
or whatever the quote was. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
The probably my favorite part of La Villa is when it gets a little jazzy,
Mhm.
you know, and then it's just like Neil on the hi-hat
Yeah.
just for like a brief second.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he does it, but his work on the hi-hat, especially that song, for
Yeah.
me, it always stands out. It's so clean.
Yeah. And so playing that, his foot pattern is not fun in that part. I know that part right there. Is that what
Right.
you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. His foot pattern, because what he's doing on his hi-hat is like a triplet, but he's doing like half notes on his foot.
Yeah.
And then he does a little snare roll, like just to show off, like, thanks, man. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Just as soon as I get the foot and the hi-hats down, I have to do the snare roll. Appreciate it. So yeah.
Yeah, that was always great to see live too.
Have you seen any of his Neil's own DVDs, like where it's just him? Those?
Yeah, we interviewed a guy named Joe Bergamini.
That's a Taking Center Stage, right?
Right.
Okay.
I watched that one. I don't know if I watched the other ones because you know, I only recently started actually playing drums. I started
Oh.
playing drums right before the pandemic started, which was fortunate for me. So I got some practice time in. But you know, as much fun as it is to listen to Neil talk, I didn't think I really wasn't getting much from his in-depth discussion of the drums because I didn't know what he was talking about.
Because I was going to ask the one that was always when I watched that, because you don't see it in concert because you're behind him on that Taking Center Stage, and the one that stuck out to me was Time Stands Still, where I always get her name wrong.
Amy Mann.
Amy Mann.
Where she's singing and he's doing that drum pattern.
Mhm.
And he's doing a couple things with his left foot, and it's just amazing to me watching him do that. Just the ambidextrous part of
Right.
his playing and watching him. And I can't. So I've been playing since I was 6. I can't do that. And it's just incredible. Just that little part he does live, and he has to do it, or else he could get away with not doing it, and it would be fine. But he has to do it, being Neil.
Right.
And it's just crazy watching him doing that and going, he doesn't have to do this, but he is, and he does it on other songs too. But that one
Right.
just stood out a lot to me because it's just such a tricky part already without doing the left foot pattern, and him just doing that is, to me, is just stunning. The subtlety of stuff that he didn't have to do, but yet here he is doing it anyway because that one fan might be disappointed he didn't do it.
Right.
It's just crazy.
I mean, if you watch, there's been like reactors on YouTube. They just react to songs, whatever. There was a big explosion of people reacting to one of his drum solos, I think from Germany. I can't remember which tour it was, but if you watch him, his limb independence is unreal. the way that all four of his limbs are doing completely different things, which even, some of the greatest drummers, you don't see them doing stuff like that. He's playing like different
Oh yeah.
rhythms and times with each limb. It's quite stunning.
Yeah, he was really the first one that invented the polyrhythm, which is independent of all of your limbs.
Right.
For drummer talk, and there's only a few that I've seen do it. Terry Bozzio being one of them, but Neil really invented it. Like as far as being in a well-known band and doing that kind of stuff, and it's
Right.
just incredible. Like especially like in his drum solo when he got later, when he would hit the electronic pads and stuff like that, like all those trumpets and horns and all that. That's him.
Yeah.
People thought it was a backing track. Like no, when he's hitting that snare, he's hitting the little pad that's in front of him, and it's just incredible. So
Yeah, it absolutely is.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to jump in with a question. I'm curious. Rush has always been known as a guys band, but there are a lot of female fans. I'm a fan. My daughter's a fan. Have you ever had that conception? And if so, did it change once you were doing the podcast?
I think of course we definitely had the conception in our younger days, but we were dumber when we were younger, I hope anyway. But it definitely seemed to be the case when you went to a Rush show.
Right.
Most notably the line for the bathroom, which is usually flipped. You know what I mean? The only concert I ever went to where the line for the men's room was longer than the line for the women's room was at a Rush show. But as time went on, we started seeing more women at the shows, independent of, their boyfriends. Women just going on their own or with their own friends. And I think one of the reasons for that kind of male-dominated concert experience is because of a certain kind of like gatekeeping, where I'm sure you've noticed this, the guys who are into things would just love to shut down people who may not be as into them as they are. And I think that happened a lot with women. Women would say, I love Rush too. And they'd be like, oh, what's your favorite? You know what I mean? And just like shut them down. Maybe they just didn't feel like, dealing with that all day long.
That's when we met. He talked about being such a Rush fan. I said, oh, I like Rush too. I grew up with Rush. And he said, oh yeah, what's your favorite song? Thinking that I was going to say Tom Sawyer, but right. I said YYZ was my favorite song. And then he knew I was serious.
Now I have a ring on my finger.
Yeah, I mean, I might say my favorite song is Tom Sawyer, and someone wouldn't think that I was a big fan.
Yeah. Another question I had is on episode 145, you had Kevin J. Anderson on the show, and he was talking about the Clockwork Destiny, the final book that they did together. And he mentioned that Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon is a part of the book. So many bands would have loved to collaborate with Neil. How did Vertical Horizon get that?
I don't really know. I think there's just a small cadre of friends that Neil cultivated over the years. Yeah. And a lot of them I don't think I've ever listened to Vertical Horizon.
I like Vertical Horizon, and Neil wrote the song Even Now for them. And I went back and listened to it the other day and read the lyrics as I was listening to it. I was like, oh, he definitely wrote that song. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't really know. Neil didn't seem to be too impressed by celebrities of any kind.
Exactly.
So if he just found people who he was interested in or were interesting, he was just friends with them, from anybody, that he met along the road in his travels to band members. So I don't really know why that would be the case. It would be great to find your way into one of those books, though.
Yes. Once he passed, I knew he had done some stuff with other artists. So I actually found, I think it was 4 songs that he did with them, and I actually have them listen to him every once in a while, just to have that extra Neil moment that I can listen to something, different. So
You see, I didn't even know that. I'm gonna have to go look those
yeah,
songs up now.
I had to go on Wikipedia and find them. But once you listen, you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely him playing. Like, okay, they weren't lying on Wikipedia for once.
But then we saw him on that video where
Oh,
he
yeah.
was, when he was recording the drums, and Matt Scannell was just
yeah, he
totally
was, like,
fanboying.
orchestrating him in there. It was
my
really,
God.
really
And
cool.
he was jumping up and down. At the end, he was like, "Oh my God." So yeah, I'd always wondered how they were able to pull that collaboration off.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. Neil
Yeah.
would just do whatever he wanted to do. So
Yeah.
maybe it was a good day to just on someone else's song.
Interesting. Yeah. And then we learned about the Lakeside Park Memorial fundraiser through your show, and Justin has his Lakeside Park shirt on, so we actually donated and got the shirt, and it's just amazing that he made such an impact that they went and named this pavilion after him, and they're doing this huge fundraiser, and a lot of musicians don't get that.
No, but it seems like the kind of thing that he would have hated.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but we have.
I think it's great. I'm not even sure what the status is of that. I haven't actually looked into it in a while. I've just been waiting for.
I think the last time I looked, they were up in the $200,000 range for the fundraiser.
Right. So I don't. How far along are they? Do you know in choosing a winner for the sculpture?
Of that, I don't know if they've done that.
Yeah,
or
we
not.
found some pictures,
Yeah.
but nothing official.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
still working on it. Just
Yeah, we're
happened at a bad time.
Yeah, I know.
And
know.
I mean, I there's when it once happened and the world shut down, I'm like, man, was Neil's death that impactful that the world had to shut down just to cope
Yeah.
with it? But
I know for
RUSH
RUSH fans, 2020 started out rough,
yeah.
and for everybody else, just caught up later.
And it's almost like, well, he's like, no, you guys aren't going to have a tribute to me with a bunch of artists playing for me. Yeah, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to like that. So no one gets to do anything now.
Right. The Night for Neil concert has been postponed.
3 years right now.
Yeah, it was
Pushing.
postponed relatively recently. So
Yeah. So he's something. Stars look down, right?
Yeah.
he's getting his way.
He's getting his way somehow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we wanted to thank you again for doing this with us.
Oh, sure.
And
I appreciate the offer to come on.
yeah, it's definitely been an honor on our side
For
as
sure.
well. So please listen to and subscribe to Something for Nothing, a RUSH Fancast on Spotify and Apple Music. And you can find them on Twitter at RUSH Fancast and Instagram at the RushCast. And again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
Is there
you very,
anything
very
else you
much.
wanted to say, or?
No, I'm just glad that you did all the socials because I would not have remembered any of them. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Perfect.
So. All right. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very
and
much.
Hopefully we can do this again sometime soon and maybe just talk RUSH and not have a certain theme to it. So
Sure.
For sure.
Anytime.
all right. Thank you so
very
much.
Have a good night.
That was good. How'd you like that? Was that good?
Yeah. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not sure if this, I have to see how large this file is going to be. I can email it to you.
That'd be great. Yeah, because we're so we didn't know we needed to upgrade to anything, and all of a
Oh,
sudden we
no.
got 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh no.
Why? What happened? Did you get an alert of some kind?
Yeah.
I said you have 10 minutes. Upgrade to Pro now. I'm like, I didn't know we had a certain time limit to begin with.
Oh.
Know that ahead of time. So
But we pulled it off.
we pulled it off.
Okay.
Pulled it off.
Yeah.
Drumming up conversation.